Okay, so this is a new course now on integrated waste management for a smart city. So we are offering this course for the first time at NPTEL and as well as I think it will be on SWAYAM platform as well. So this course is focused on urban issues. As you can so the main focus of this course will be on municipal solid waste. In the short form we call it MSW. It is the waste that I and you produced in an urban environment. It's a municipal waste. The word as it suggests, municipal waste means the waste is produced in a municipality. So that's the municipal waste. We will also talk about construction and demolition waste, which is another big area of waste stream. Even the new MSW management rules 2016 has identified C&D waste as one of the major waste stream in terms of for its management. So that's the C&D waste will also be covered in this particular course, and so as electronic waste management. So the way I have thought about this course is this is a 12-week course. So the first 8 weeks will be focusing on municipal solid waste, which is the biggest chunk of this course. Then 2 weeks will spend on construction and demolition waste, and 2 weeks on electronic waste. So that's what I have been talking about. But like my plan is, as you know, if you have taken NPTEL course before, or if you are taking it for the first time, usually we will have a discussion board running, and so which will be there. So there will be a discussion board which you can participate. I will encourage you to participate. In fact, I will encourage each of you to introduce yourself in the discussion board, and then why you are taking this course, so that we know your interest, so that if there are certain things which we need to include into the course content, we'll try to do that. And but it has to be relevant to the course, of course. So introduce yourself in the discussion board. Whatever queries you have, ask in the discussion board. We will have people looking at the discussion board almost every day and trying to respond to your query on a day-to-day basis. And so welcome to this course again, and let's get started. Myself is I'm Brijesh Kumar Dubey. I'm a faculty member in the Department of Civil Engineering at IIT Kharagpur, and we already talked, and I'll give you in this particular week. This is the first week. During this particular week, we'll be doing a course overview. So we'll have what we'll do is basically a snapshot of the different issues that is there in terms of the waste management. So that's like a big picture will be shown in this particular week, and then in a subsequent week we'll go in more detail, more depth for each and every component of the waste management, and more focused on municipal solid waste management for the first 8 weeks. So before we go into the course, I wanted to give you a little bit background about myself. As I mentioned, my name is Brijesh Dubey. My BTech is in civil engineering from this institute, from where you are taking this course. It's from IIT Kharagpur, and then I have worked in industry for some time. And after working in industry for some, I decided to go for my PhD. So I went to University of Florida and in environmental engineering and sciences department there, and the focus was on waste management. So my research group from where I got my PhD advisor is Professor Timothy Townsend, and he was one of the leading, he still is one of the leading researcher in the area of waste management. So that's from under his lab. In his lab I have done my PhD. Then I worked in several places in Florida, in New Zealand, in USA, in Canada, and after working for several places I came back to India and joined my alma mater as associate professor in March 2015. So I spent nearly 14 years overseas and working on waste management. Luckily for me, I had a chance to work on several aspects of waste management in North America. I've done some projects for United Nations in Africa. We also did some work in China, and I do go to China and teach every year. Again, this summer I'll be visiting China and teach on Lifecycle Analysis, which is my other course on LPTL, which was offered last semester. And so that's I do teach alternatively. One year I teach solid waste. One year I teach Lifecycle as a part of my program in China for like a short-term course. It's a small course. So After working, so I've been working in India since March 2015, and my major area of work is on waste management as well as life cycle analysis. So those are the two areas where I focus on, and they are connected. As those of you who have taken my LCA course, you may have seen that I have talked about life cycle. If I talked about waste management is a lot in LCA course, and similarly things will do over here as well. I'll be talking about LCA as well, how the LCA is used for waste management. It's a very interesting area in terms of the overlap between LCA and waste management. And then I do exist in social platform, which is very common these days. You need to be to have a joke on this. Earlier, if you watched, there used to be a show on Doordarshan. Doordarshan is that Indian official channel. They're called Ulta Pulta, which is Bhatti, Jaspal Bhatti. And he had one episode where he would talk about that if you don't have the ration card, many people don't have ration card today, but if you don't have ration card, you don't really exist in the system. Today we have Aadhaar card and all those things for that. But similarly, if I say that if you don't have a Facebook account, if you don't have a WhatsApp account, you really don't exist, especially in today's younger generation. So I do have all those accounts, including the Twitter account, where so you can also, and I keep on posting stuff related to waste management there. So those things are also available. So that's kind of a little bit background about myself. And since it's a online class, I cannot have a personal one-to-one introduction of you, but I would like to see your introduction in the discussion forum so that we know each other well, and that will help me to deliver the class better. So in terms of this big picture solid and hazardous waste management, what we are talking about? We are talking about is waste that is being produced, waste produced since time, like as soon as the humans started inhabiting this earth and it started producing fire and it started cooking and producing some utensils or producing some equipments or as well as some tools for fighting, we started, there was a portion of that material that was used to make these, there was a portion which went on waste, because you cannot, when you cut, when you chop off, then you have a lot of things which is produced as a waste. Initially, most of these was organic in nature. There were things with not only organic in nature, there were things which was coming directly from nature as well. So it can be easily biodegraded. It can there was no heavy metals to worry about. We had not learned how to mine for heavy metals. We had not learned how to do the metallurgy, and we were not using lots of electronic gadgets and all those fancy chemicals which have been manufactured now. So there is a concept called anthropogenic chemical, and as well as what is known as the geogenic chemical. Geogenic is which is already there in the is there, so you are not really producing that. So something like which is Mother Nature is producing. Mother Nature has a mechanism to deal with that. If you look at the waste for the things from a bacterial world or microbiological world, waste from one species becomes the food for another species, and the cycle continues, and there is a recycling, composting, all those things happening in nature. But as we have made a lot of industrial revolution, we have been producing more and more of these products. We are after usage of the product, or even during the manufacturing of this product, we are dumping lots and lots of waste which has certain chemicals there which Mother Nature is not able to handle it. So we need to help the Mother Nature. The whole aspect of this waste management is so that we need to help Mother Nature so that we can treat this waste material before we are dumping it back into the environment, so that does not cause health problem, does not cause environmental issues. Ultimately, the whole aspect is human health and environment. To prevent human health and environment, we have to do that. So generation of waste has been around for a very, very long time, which we know. It is an inevitable part. It will happen. We cannot do anything much about this. There have been problems with waste since the very beginning. There has been problems associated with that. In terms of how they have been managed, basic means of dealing with waste, essentially it used to be dumping, burning, recycling, and the waste minimization. So that's where we have been doing. So we have been dumping the garbage. Anywhere humans have existed, they dump the garbage. Usually in the low-lying areas, you put it in the low-lying areas where, because there is a low-lying area, you fill the garbage up, and then you have like a same level. You can burn it, mostly uncontrolled burning. These days, after the waste incineration, we are trying to have a controlled burning, where we are burning the garbage in a controlled environment to produce heat, produce electricity, and all those kind of stuff. Why to do it? It saves space. You can have more, because if you have 100 tons of garbage and if you burn it, you are ending up with 10 tons of residual. So rather than having 100 tons of garbage to be disposed from the landfill, you burn it, you recover energy from that, and then you have 10 tons of residual. Many countries around the world, even for the 10 tons, they are going for recycling of that. They separate it into different fractions. They use it for as a construction material for road construction or some other construction. Fly ash is used for cement construction, cement manufacturing, sorry. So those things are being like reused, and so whatever is residual that goes to the landfill in the developed country, especially in the Western European countries, that value has almost gone down to 2 to 3%. So when I say 2 to 3%, like if you start with 100 tons of garbage, you only are sending 3 tons of garbage to the landfill. Sorry, 3 tons of the residual to the landfill after treating in a thermal treatment plant. So that's, and recovering nearly 97-98% in different forms. So that helps in terms of the waste going to the landfill. That helps in extending the life of the landfill, and so that's because so that we don't have to build a new landfill later on. So, but then recycling is here you can recover the beneficial component. You want to make sure there is no hazardous waste there. Then waste minimization, where you reduce the resource and energy used during manufacturing, and all these things we'll explain a little bit in more detail in later on slides. So that's in terms of the big picture. This is how the solid and hazardous waste management is looked at. So before we go into the more detail, we'll talk a little bit about the history of the solid waste. And I tell that in each and every class that I teach, it's very important to know why this course. But that's like if you understand what is the need of this course, why this course, that kind of keeps you motivated to learn about this course. So let's look at the history of solid waste. As I said earlier, as soon as the humans started producing things, we started producing waste, and then we have been dumping this waste in wherever we could find a space. As the population increased, as the cities and towns grew, the dumping space keeps on going outside of the landfill, outside of the city boundary. Usually between the two city boundaries you will have the dump sites, but when you take it outside of the city boundary, you have to transport it. So the transportation of the garbage becomes important. Today, collection and transportation of the garbage is actually the number one in terms of the cost factor. The cost of transporting and disposing the garbage is very, very high. Collection and transporting the garbage is very, very high. So we always try to minimize. And then the collection and transportation of waste is similar. It's the same problem as your transportation of goods, which is sold by Amazon or Flipkart and all those different Snapdeal and all those different companies. So it's the same logistics, same sort of linear programming, same sort of routing problem. So if you have if you want to like do some work in waste management area in terms, and if your expertise lies in those like in linear programming, operation research, and optimization of route, you can apply that, because that's actually there are softwares out there. Of course, there is always, you need to refine that software, and things does get site specific as well because of the geometry of the city, the layout of the streets in the city. Then based on that, you need to decide what should be your route for collecting of the garbage. And if you can help reduce even one truck for a city like Delhi, one good quality garbage truck is almost $200,000 to $250,000 US. So if you can help in reducing by coming out with a better route, better optimization, if you can help in reducing even one truck, that helps in reduction of cost of almost $200,000 US. That would be, you can hire several manpowers to do a lot of other things for that, or you can do something else. So uncontrolled dumping has been going on for the many societies for the century, as in terms of the history of the solid waste. There have been cases where people have got sick. We have been cases where people have got sick, and this bubonic plague is one big example where people have this was a disease caused by certain like bacteria and microorganisms. So then it got transferred between the small rodents and the fleas, transmitted to humans as well. And in 14th century, it killed 50% of the population of Europe, which is 75 million. 75 million is around, in terms of Indian, it's around 7.5 crores. So that's, if you can add up Delhi, Bombay, and maybe Kolkata and Chennai, have or something around that, and that would be around at least 3 metros. So 3 metros of the population was the population of Europe in 14th century. So there is a population explosion, not only in India, of course there is other countries as well, and but so this population explosion, we are producing more and more waste as well. So in the Middle Ages there was uncontrolled piles of garbage, that you see in and around cities. So there is a uncontrolled piles of garbage showing up in and around cities, and this they provided great environment for rats and other disease carrying animals, creating a lot of problem. And that's a lot of different types of disease happens, like leptospirosis, salmonellosis, toxoplasmosis. We don't have to worry about the name of those disease, but essentially it's essentially telling us that waste, improper management of waste was directly linked to the human health and of course the environmental health. So that's why this course is important. We have to learn about this course so that we can make sure our environment is safe and we are safe. So that's the bottom line. We have to learn about this course so that we can understand that how how to better manage the waste material, what we can do in terms of proper management of the garbage. So when we manage the garbage properly, it helps in terms of preventing the environmental damage. When we have the environmental damage, when we say environmental damage, what does it mean? We mean the damage to the air, damage to the soil, damage to the water. And in that, in terms of those damages, it leads to, if water is damaged, that means my drinking water source is getting polluted. My drinking water source is getting polluted. Our drinking water plants are not, they are designed to treat certain things, and if we get contaminated water, I consume contaminated water either through my food intake or through my water intake, I will get sick. So that's, it's linked right there. If the soil is contaminated, you will have whatever is grown on the soil will have a chance of getting contaminated too. Most of the plants are by nature a little bit of, there is some phytoremediation, which is a term used for if you have a contaminated site, you grow certain plants, and the plants actually uptake those contaminants into their biomass, and then you can harvest that biomass and manage that waste that way, so that you can decontaminate those sites that way. That's the phytoremediation. So all the plants have a natural phytoremediating tendency a bit. So that's even your lettuce or tomatoes and other things does uptake little bit of these contaminants, and then we consume that contaminants through our food intake. So that's that problem is also there. So in terms of so that's the water, air again, if the air is polluted, whatever we inhale, whatever we breathe, that is polluted. So those problems does show up. So that's that's why the subject of this waste management becomes very important, because it's linked to the environmental health. They are also linked to the human health, and they are all linked together, which I was trying to explain it to you. So in terms of the waste management, we looked at historical what has been happening. So what is happening today? So we'll talk about that in this particular next part of whatever time is left in this particular module. So in terms of the present day, a big component of the waste management is 3R. 3R is very, very common that you see. You may have also seen many of these places you see this recycling sign. So this recycling is basically you're trying to recycle the material, and we'll talk about that a little bit detail as well. So big component of the waste management today is the 3R. What is this 3R? Reduce. You're trying to reduce the waste that is being produced at the first place, and then reuse the waste, and then recycle. So many times these days you see even 4R, 5R. They say reduce, reuse, recycle, recover. And there are some cases they also use 5Rs. But the bottom line is try to reduce. So the bottom line is that amount of garbage going to the landfill, amount of waste needs to be minimized. And there is another term used for that, that's called the diversion. When you look at European Union or the Canadian or the US solid waste management rules or solid waste management reports, city reports or the county reports or the state level report or even at the federal level report, they will tell you a term called diversion. Diversion means what fraction of the garbage was diverted away from the landfill. So that's what essentially it means. So diverted away from the landfill is considered a diversion. So which includes recycling, includes reduce, reuse part. It also includes waste to energy part. It also includes the composting, anaerobic digestion, and everything together. So that's your part used for that. So in terms of reduce, what is the meaning of reduce? Like you reduce at the source. You produce less amount of garbage to start with, to make, and then for that you make something smaller. You you do some education and enforcement. You try to, for example, one big example is you can reduce the amount of paper waste that is being produced by using both sides of the paper. I told you earlier that I have been in New Zealand, and in the university that I was working in New Zealand, all the printers by default has been set in double-sided printing. So they will do double-sided printing unless you tell it to print single-sided. So most of the time they will have double-sided printing unless you tell it to single-sided. Sometimes you may need single-sided printing for some legal documents and other stuff, but most of the time you can work with double-sided printing. So it's done. Similar things can be done on our Indian campuses. We make a decision that all the paper, all the printer that we'll buy has to be a double-sided printer. And double-sided printers are a bit expensive, but if you look at the long term in terms of its impact, in terms of the reduction in the paper waste, and not only paper, that leads to less amount of paper waste. That means management of paper waste goes down. At the same time, when you're using double-sided, you're also saving the paper, the amount of paper that you're using, so that you have it kind of leads to all that less number of trees to be fallen down and all those things associated with that. So that's the reduce part. Then the reuse part is that when you try to reuse the original material, use the material in the original form instead of throwing it away. So you don't throw that material away. You use it in its original form rather than recreating it. For example, use of travel mug. You can use the travel mug for rather than buying your bottled water, or you are trying to use like a use and throw glasses. You have your own travel mugs, and then you use for your coffee and other stuff. You can use that. Many times it is difficult to do that, especially in today's marketing world. I would share with you one experience from one particular university campuses where I was around. There we have been trying, as part of the sustainability initiative of the campus, we were trying to force these companies to actually give us give us a permission to use this reusable travel mugs. Reuse this travel mugs for filling up. So say if I want to, after my lunch, I want to have a Coke or a Pepsi or whatever drink, I can use my travel mug and fill it up. But the companies are not really keen on going that way, because when they want you to carry that Coca-Cola cup, or they want you to carry that Pepsi cup, for example. The Coca-Cola cup or the Pepsi cup, when they carry it around, you are actually, although you paid for the drink, and of course for the cup as well, but at the same time what they are doing is they are using you, the consumer, as their marketing, as their advertising agent as well. So because when you're carrying this Coca-Cola cup in your hand and you're carrying it around, people see that, okay, he just had a Coca-Cola. Then some people will say, okay, I'll go and get one too. So so the companies are actually forcing us to be doing a marketing for them or advertising for them. So if you have a reusable coffee mug or reusable travel mug, which we can use around the entire campus of, say, IIT Kharagpur, then they may not like it, because every time their advertisements are gone. So say if there is a dispenser, there are many places you will see where they will have dispensers now for Coke, Pepsi and other stuff, and then you just take your travel mug, you fill it up, whatever is the price, you pay that. You don't pay for the cup. And if you don't pay for the cup, that kind of saves money for the company. But since they want to promote their product, then in that case, if you're using a travel mug, nobody can distinguish whether you're using whether you're drinking coffee from that or whether you're using Pepsi, Coke, whatever. So it all looks the same. It's a travel mug. So that to that's why it's uncomfortable for those companies to do that. But those things are coming. Those things will come. Some campuses are actually forcing these companies that you have to do it, otherwise will not give you business to you. So that's that way the regulation will force companies to go that route. And then other thing is that you can have a yard sale. Yard sale, basically you can sell your old stuff, and people do buy it. You can donate your old clothes, you donate your books and other stuff, and that can be used by someone else. So that's the reuse part. Recycle part is where you divert part of the waste stream back into the production rather than throwing it away. So you are recycling that material back. So rather than throwing that material away, you are recycling it back and using it that way. Recycling is done a lot. In Indian context, we have most of the recycling, at least kind of the process gets initiated by those kabadiwalas who come and collect those recyclables for your home. And that's where the process gets initiated, and then that it's used for kind of, it goes from a smaller dealer to the bigger dealer, and then ultimately it goes to recycling facilities. Some of this recycling is done in a very crude way, but some of the recycling is done in a more sophisticated way. For example, the plastics today, actually the number one buyer of recyclable plastic it's a Reliance company, and the number one buyer of recyclable paper is the ITC. And so the recyclable plastic, they buy it, they produces new plastic out of that. They also produce polyesters out of that, and that is used to make t-shirts and other stuff. That the fancy IPL t-shirts that you see people wearing around, those nice shiny ones, has a certain percentage of recycled plastic there. So it helps in the industry that way too. So that's the recycling part. So you, rather than throwing it away, you are using it in some fashion. So this is how things are being managed today. And to make all this discussion about the management part, there is a concept of life cycle analysis which is getting very popular these days. This concept of life cycle analysis, which I talked about this course, just if you have taken that NPTEL course, which was offered a semester ago, you know what I'm talking about. But for those of you who not, or even for a recap of those who did, life cycle analysis has been suggested to solve this waste issue in terms of assessing the environmental impact of all stages of product's life cycle. So from cradle to grave, cradle means when the baby is born, grave means when the person is died and has to be put into for a burial. So since the concept came from the Western world, we are talking about cradle to grave. But in today's scenario, actually, we also talk about cradle to cradle. Cradle to cradle is where we're talking about like you are doing a circular economy. You're recovering the material and you are putting it back into this process chain. So that's your cradle to cradle. Many times I joke around saying that it looks like the whole world is started believing in Hinduism, because we talk about reincarnation. So cradle to cradle is more like reincarnation of the material that is being used. So in the material cycle, material used, product is made, and then it goes into the disposal. And rather than throwing it away, you recover the material and putting it back to the production cycle. So that's the concept of circular economy as well. So that's where we have been using this concept of circular economy. So this cradle to cradle or cradle to grave, those concepts are used in life cycle assessment. The life cycle assessment is essentially a tool. It's an environmental tool which helps us to find out how much is the environmental footprint of any process, any product, or including for the waste management system. We have done work in the past where for a certain city, that work was done in near Toronto. There is a region of Peel. Those of you are familiar with the Toronto area, we have region of Peel, which is the Brampton, Mississauga and Carleton, those three cities. Brampton and Mississauga is the big ones, and there they wanted to find out what is the best way to manage their municipal solid waste. So there were 3-4 different options out there, and as a LCA practitioner, I was hired to do that life cycle analysis for those 4 or 5 different options. And that we looked at different options. We had to collect some data, and then do some LCA exercise to find out which option will work better for this region of PL. So similarly, things can be done. Say for example, in Kolkata or in Bangalore or whichever city we are talking about, there are different ways we can manage the waste. We can, if we have to make a decision in terms of what is the best way to manage this waste, which will have the least environmental footprint, we can go for something like a LCA exercise. And someone who has the knowledge of both waste management as well as the LCA we can always. That's why. Like last semester I had that LCA course, this semester I have the waste management course. If you have taken both the course, that gives you a very good understanding of the concept of LCA, how it is applied in a waste management sector. And we'll try to talk about that in the class as we make progress in this particular course for next 12 weeks. So cradle to cradle, and that's the new concept, not cradle to grave anymore, but the cradle to grave is what is the from the start to the finish. And as I was trying to talk to you, it avoid having a narrow outlook on environmental concern. It gives you a big picture of the system, so you don't really look at a narrow. But that's what we have been doing. We have been make the different compartments. What is known as the silos approach, rather than having a big picture approach. We have been doing silos. Like we're only looking at this particular aspect, not worried about how this is impacting on this side and that side. Only looking at a very narrow focus. That needs to go away. Mother Nature doesn't work in a in a multidisciplinary, in a single disciplinary aspect. We need to kind of move away and go for a multidisciplinary approach to solve the problem of any problem, including that for waste management. Waste management is a very highly multidisciplinary field, as you will see as we make progress here in this particular course. And this life cycle assessment approach is also part of Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, which was enacted in US EPA long back. So even around 20 years back, they started thinking in terms of resource recovery. So that's why the act is not called Waste Management Act. The one thing, if you watched, or if you looked at carefully in terms of the US EPA, United States Environmental Protection Agency, although they are focused in terms of the Waste Act, they call it RCRA, R-C-R-A. This RCRA stands for, it is RCRA, where your Resource Conservation and Recovery Act. So it's, although it's a Waste Management Act, but we call it Resource Conservation and Recovery Act. So focus is on how to conserve the resource and how to recover the resource. And when you try to conserve and recover the resource, if you try to find out what is the environmental footprint of that, your LCA exercise will help you to do that. So with that, I would like to close this particular module, which is the first module. So again, welcome to this course, and I really look forward to working with you for over the next several weeks. So and I hope you enjoy this course. Again, if you have any concern, if you need any help with anything, feel free to put your question on the discussion forum. Why I suggest you can send emails as well, but I encourage you to use the discussion forum so that the answers on the discussion forum can be seen by other students, so that we can other students can also benefit from whatever query has been raised. And then many times you may raise a certain question which can lead to certain good lively discussion, and that's, I will hope to have that. It will be really nice to have some real good discussion going on with arguments both back and forth, both for as well as against, so that to make things interesting. So I hope that you guys will make this course, it's in your hand to make it interesting, and I will try my best as well. So again, welcome to this course, and this with this will end the first module of this of the first week. Thank you.